Hey, this is Evan Longoria of your San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Let's go, Giants! With hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, Ben Lee, and Eric Nathanson. Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball, the San Francisco Giants. This is TortureCast. Standing on time, not gonna stop. We came to play, ain't slowing down. Falling on, we're here to stay, and we're stopping on whatever's in our way. I'm feeling like a Giant tonight.
It's Monday, May 21st, 2018, and this is episode 144 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and joining me once again from Georgia. How many pecans do you have right now with your dogs? How many nuts do they have? Is Eric Nathanson.
They've started a collection, and they put them all the shells under one tree, so I'll have to count at the end of the summer.
Oh, boy, well, that would be fun. Count individual pecans in the orchard around you. How big is that?
Well, I don't know. I honestly, we're on an acre, and I want to say it's at least 20, 25 acres, and it's just rows and rows of trees. And the nice thing is on our acre we can keep all the pecans we want. So somebody's gonna be making somebody's gonna be making pie and stuff like that, and even if we wanted to turn around and sell it, which we're not going to, there's no need to do that. We could do it, and we were told that they're ours to do with what we please. So,
wow,
yeah. At
least you could be the next entrepreneurial pecan farmer with your 1 acre there.
Got to start somewhere, right?
Got to start somewhere. Well, will they allow you to bulldoze that 1 acre and build a baseball field and then have people come and tell you you're an idiot?
Yeah,
and put in lights and sell sacrifice your financial future and then ghosts start appearing.
After I buy the entire pecan farm, I'll do that because give it 2-3 years. The guy who owns the place, he's looking to retire soon. So if I decide to buy it from him, anything can happen.
If you build it, that.
Yeah. Like AT&T, where the Giants play. Like they built it and you came. Like last Monday, you for some reason blessed them with the positive 4-3 homestand over the last 7 games since the last time we recorded.
That was fun. We recorded last Monday and I took off to the park and had a great time. It was a great game by the Giants beating the Reds. There's a lot of fun. I did get there a little later than I wanted to, so I could not pick up any audio. And for those of you, it's weird when you cover a baseball game because I'm not a regular reporter, clearly. And the Giants have been so gracious in allowing us to have access when we request it. And I'm only going to, 5, 6, 7 games a year at this point because of my schedule. We used to go to a lot more, especially when Willie lived in the Bay Area. He moved to Austin, of course, and Ben's been real busy with his entrepreneurial podcasting stuff. But we'd go to a lot more games than that, maybe, 12 to 20, kind of in that realm, and we got into a nice little groove. But now I'm kind of flying solo on these expeditions up to AT&T Park. So if I get in early enough, I'll talk to the players. Certainly I'm there for Bochy's pregame presser. I did get in a question to Bochy at the postgame presser, the very last question actually. But other than that, I went into the clubhouse after the game, and Stratton came out, and they asked him some basic questions, and he was pretty much like a robot. And sometimes the reporters will kind of just all stand in a circle. It's almost like it's a 7th grade dance, and like we're all the boys and the girls are all the baseball players, or vice versa, I should say. And it's really weird because it always takes like 1 or 2 people to go, okay, I'm going to go interview Buster Posey or whoever, and then the rest of the flock just kind of follows, and then everybody crowds around that one player. It's a very odd dynamic. So it's not like every reporter is splitting off by themselves to interview whomever they want. It's almost like they kind of wait to see where someone's going to lead. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that the players, I've sensed, they're like, look, I just want to shower and change. I'm half naked in front of you. I just want to put my clothes on and get the hell out of here. You know what I mean?
I would, yeah.
I would too, exactly, especially since it's every single night they're dealing with this. And if it's a player that did something significant in the game, I'm sure they expect it. But, you're Joe Schmo who didn't have any action, or maybe, had a 1-for-3 with a single, or pitched 1 inning of relief in the 7th inning. Those usually aren't targets. I've peeled off and done a couple of those interviews, but it's, you don't really have questions about the specific game other than asking them, hey, what did you think about this player's performance today, going 4 for 5? It's more like that. You're not going to ask them, so how was that 1 inning of pedestrian baseball that you pitched?
Right.
It's like there's nothing really to talk about. So you kind of wait for the significant players to come out, and I didn't get any sound clips of Buster because there were so many people around him, and I split. But yeah, the Giants had a good week. I would say we were hoping they would go at minimum 4-3 on the homestand, and that's exactly what they did. But although 5-2 would have been much, much better, they won their last 2 games of the homestand. So they actually pulled out a winning homestand with the last 2 wins. And it was looking a little dire there against the Rockies, especially yesterday's game when they fell down 4-1. And you're thinking, shit, they might go 3-4 in this homestand and lose 3 out of 4 to the Rockies, fall even further back from second and first. But, they pulled it out with the hitting they've been having lately, which has been really saving their ass. Totally saving their ass lately, and we'll talk about that. But Eric, where are they right now? What's their record, and how far back are they?
What are they, 500? They're 24-24. Those are good numbers. This could be the launching point. We could be talking about 24-24 as the last time they were 500 all year, and that'd be a nice little, segue for a world championship this year. Not that I'm projecting, but they're still in 3rd place, but they're only 2 games back because Arizona is just ridiculously bad lately. And the Rockies are ahead of them by a game and a half, and so they're only a half game out of first. And the Giants really, if they just won one of those 2 games, Thursday or Friday, or if they'd even just won 1 more or 2 more in Pennsylvania, they'd be knocking on the door of first place right now.
Yeah, you insert 1 more win, they're 1 game back. If they beat the Rockies 1 more game, they would be in 2nd place, a half game ahead of the Rockies right now. But that said, 4-3 homestand, they gained 2 games on the Diamondbacks because they were like 2-5 or 1-4 for the week.
1 and something. Yeah, they're 1-9 on their last 10. So
and they've lost like 5 or 6 in a row. So the Diamondbacks have completely opened the door for the Rockies and the Giants. And quite frankly, the Dodgers are languishing and they're not doing very well. But as we all know, it's less than a third of the season that's been played. So Dodgers get Kershaw back. They just got Justin Turner back. They're a good team. We know the Dodgers are a good team. For God's sakes, they've won the NL West 4 years in a row. So, and without any super significant changes this year, they've just been decimated by injuries. But of course, Giants have, Arizona has now, especially with losing A.J. Pollock, who is a complete all-star. So they're missing these guys, but the NL West is just floundering right now. And this time last year, the Giants were like 10 games back. It wasn't even a consideration for them competing for the West. And we kind of were starting to chalk up 2017 to a lost year. But this year so far, there's been some disappointments, but hey, they're 500, right where we said they need to be before Bum and Cueto come back. We keep harping on that theme, and they're 2 games back. If they're in the AL East, they're like 10 games back right now. So it really does have to do with the competition in the NL West. And at this point, projections are saying the NL West division winner might be at like 87 wins this year. That's a very, very makeable total for the Giants at this point, especially if they solidify everything coming down the stretch. Well, I shouldn't say coming down the stretch, but heading in the All-Star break. If they solidify with these guys coming back with Bum and Cueto and, of course, Mac, there could be good things ahead. I don't want to jump the gun, but at least the Giants are at the table and they're in an okay spot.
Yeah, they're contenders, and that's all you can ask. If Arizona had continued playing as good as they had played before, and the Giants were, like you said, like 10 games back, I don't think we'd be talking about a lost season, but the approach would be a little bit different. Now, the NL West, which was such a strong division last year with 3 playoff teams, it seems like it's a wide-open crapshoot for 1 playoff spot. I can't imagine that any of the second-place teams that'll finish in the West will become a wild card team. Not if the division winner is only going to win 86, 87, 88 games.
Yeah, one of these teams can catch fire and get up to the typical 92, 93 wins for a division winner or even higher, like the Dodgers last year. But Now, right now, things are looking good. I would say, let's see, wild card standings. I'm bringing those up right now. The Giants are actually a little bit further back. They're 3 games back, which is fun to look at because Pittsburgh and St. Louis and Chicago are sitting there at 25-19 and 26-20, 3 games ahead of the Giants. So, again, they're closer to the Diamondbacks now in the West Division leaders than they are to the wild card. That said, the Dodgers have won 4 in a row. So and prior to that, they had lost 6 in a row, and we were kind of like, yay, Dodgers stinking. Here we go. They got a little 4-game winning streak in them right now. They're only 3 games back of the Giants. So, I mean, I see all these tweets, and the Dodgers suck and all this stuff. Like, yeah, they hit a bump in the road, but here they come. So as the Giants head into this 8-game, 3-city road trip, and if the Dodgers stay hot, we could easily see them flip-flop places. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but a lot of people have already written off the Dodgers, which, look, those aren't baseball analytical people. Those aren't people who I think understand the game very well. They're like, oh, the Dodgers are done. It's like, no, they're 6 games back of the Diamondbacks. They're 3 games back of the Giants.
I'll say it, but I don't totally believe it until they're actually dead and buried, So
I should say 5 games back of the Diamondbacks. They're only 5 games back. The Giants were 6 games back of the Diamondbacks a few weeks ago. So, I mean, this is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
even San Diego is only 4 games back of the Giants.
Yeah, the Dodgers are starting a homestand, 3-3-4, a 10-game homestand against Colorado,
and
San
I saw
Diego,
that.
and Philly. So they could stay hot because we know the Dodgers play well at home.
Yeah.
Which is something the Giants have shown. They're absolutely dominating at home this year, it feels like. It feels like the beginning of the season, those games against the Mariners and Dodgers, it was just kind of like, and then, like, the Giants have taken off since then. I've never felt a home field advantage like the last couple of years when things weren't going as well, but the Giants seem to have one now. Even when the seats are half empty and there's seagulls out there and it's the 11th inning, It's really nice to have the home field advantage again, and the Dodgers will definitely cash in if they can. Colorado is not that good of a team. They're really not. They're like ranked worst offensively, even though they've got home runs, but they strike out a ton. And
they do.
I was looking at the other day. There was something about runs created that they're like dead last in baseball, and it's one of the worst in the last 50 years. Which means they'll come back down to earth. Colorado's like got a losing record at home, and they have a winning record away from Coors Field, which is the difference for them right now. So I would think they would fall back to right. So I mean, you think they'll go off or they'll fall back to the pack, because they're a 500 team, much like the Giants are.
So the Giants are 9-10 in May, but their offense is ridiculously on fire. Their starting pitching has been absolutely horrendous. We'll get into some of the numbers in a bit. But one of the things I noticed, I didn't watch the game on Sunday. I could only watch the highlights. I was busy all day. The Giants are batting Posey number 2 right now, and I thought that was interesting. Now, we can talk about why in a second, but I do want to play something that rarely happens to Buster Posey, so here it is.
Lines it into the gap into right center field, and Buster Posey's going to run for a while. Will he do it? Will he go for it? You bet he is. He is on the move, and the throw, he made it. That's awesome. Here's Longoria.
So yeah, that was a triple, and so
that was awesome.
That was awesome, and so I didn't see that till the highlights. But to see Buster Posey legging out a triple, which is extremely rare for him and extremely rare for catchers, it kind of paid off right away because he hit that triple, and Longoria knocked him in right after that. So it worked right away. Now, we need to address Buster Posey in this sense, and we talked a little pre-show about this, but he's clearly on track to be a Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer yet. He needs, at least several more years at this kind of production level behind him. And catchers always get a little bit of an elevated boost, I would say, in terms of Hall of Fame eligibility because of the hardships of the position and what it takes to excel at that position. So power numbers are just not there. The average is still there. Clutch hitting is still there. The power is just gone. And he's got 2 home runs on the year. And we've seen this decline several years in a row, certainly since his 2012 All-Star season, MVP season. But the fact of the matter remains that he is developed into more of a singles hitter right now. And for any catcher hitting 302 or I don't know what his average is right now. He's always hitting 300 and delivering in the clutch, and the defense that he possesses. Did you see that play where the ball popped up on that wild pitch and he nailed the runner at third? Things like that are
going
just
up
these
to get the ball was the difference in that play. The fact that he went up to reach it instead of letting the ball come down to him.
Exactly. He jumped
so
up to
smart.
snag it as opposed to letting it come back down to him, and that was the difference in the play. It was unbelievable. Those intangibles are what sets Buster Posey apart from other catchers. He's not going to be a Mike Piazza in terms of power numbers or Johnny Bench. I don't think anyone ever thought that. Maybe after the 2012 season it looked like that was going to happen, but it's definitely not the case. I'm not going to analyze his mechanics or why his power numbers have dropped, and I think Bruce Bochy finally said, look, a guy who's hitting 2 home runs with almost a third of the season over is not your prototypical 3 or 4 hitter. So I'm going to move him up to number 2. Now, number 2 typically is a guy who's a good contact hitter. Yeah, Buster Posey has that. But he's typically a little fast. Not a speedster, but above average speed. Buster Posey, of course, is extremely below average speed. He did leg out that triple because of where the ball was. That said, do you think this is a good approach and let some of the more power hitters like Longoria, McCutchen, Belt, and others kind of get those 3, 4, and 5 positions in the batting order?
I do like it. First things first, I was watching the game live yesterday, and I woke everybody up screaming at the television. The dogs were all like fast asleep, and as soon as he hit it, I'm like, go for it, Buster, because you know when it's going towards triples alley that somebody has a shot, and Buster hadn't had a triple since 2016, so you don't expect him to actually go for it. And as he's huffing around second base, like you could see it, he debated stopping, and he's like, no, screw this. He put me in the 2 hole. I need to get in the scoring position because, well, we talked about, Buster's no dummy. Sometimes things need to get done, and he does them. And he legged it out, and it seemed like you said, it was the perfect opening to him batting second. It was the first time he had batted second since 2010. Apparently, he batted second 9 times in 2010.
Mm-hmm, and this is his 10th time. Yep.
I absolutely love it. When Joe Panic gets back, if he is at the top of that order and you go Panic, Posey, I think that's phenomenal. The way the lineup has been hitting throughout, everybody seems to be over like 300 lately. I told you I went up looking at Longo's stats before the show. I thought maybe he's not so hot, 345. McCutchen is finally getting rewarded for all those balls being hit hard, and Belt is hotter than the sun right now. And there's length in the lineup. You put Mack in there, Crawford also hotter than the sun right now. The Giants have enough length to compensate for Posey's lack of power. They just literally don't need to lean on Posey anymore for power. And I give Bochy a ton of credit. I don't know where the discussion started, if it was, something Powell said to him, if it was something Bam Bam said to him, or if Bochy came up with the idea. But like you said, he's a singles, doubles hitter. He's on base all the time. Posey's usually up there leading the Giants in runs scored just because he's literally, every time I look up, he's dumping one over the first baseman's head. He's humpbacking one over the shortstop. There's not a lot of leg in these hits, so why not utilize it to the best advantage? And I love that idea. You could keep Kutch in the 3 hole or Belt if it's a right-handed pitcher. Starting out Panic, Posey, Belt it's kind of scary. And then you drop into the Longoria, McCutchen, Williamson, Crawford part of the lineup, and the Giants, they're scarier when you do that. And Bochy, just kudos to him for doing that because their lineup is so long as it is. I mean, we finally saw the Giants' offense that I've been talking about since before the year started. We finally saw it over the past week. I mean, they averaged like 11 hits a game. There it is, 11.3 hits a game. On Monday, the game you went to, they hit 7 doubles.
Yeah, it was fun.
7 doubles in one game.
That was a lot of fun watching them score 10 runs that night. It was phenomenal. One thing I will have to say, first of all, it's a little hard to not cheer in the press box still when it's your first game of the year. Second of all, that was one of the things I did get to ask Bruce Bochy in the post-game presser a question. And it was Evan Longoria was on second base with nobody out. And it was Brandon Crawford who was up next. In the question, I said Brandon Belt. I mixed up the Brandons, and Bruce corrected me. But I said, hey, Longoria hit that double and was on second. and then, of course, I said Brandon Belt, but I meant Brandon Crawford, seared a line drive to deep center field, and Longoria was caught running to third, basically, and he had to run all the way back to second to prevent being doubled up. And my question was, I know the game, it was inconsequential in the game. It was 10-4 at the time, but are those the little things that you guys talk about after the game to kind of correct should a mental mistake like that cost you guys a run that could cost the game? And Bruce, I mean, first of all, he corrected me, but then he said, no, because we had a 6-run lead, so I understand that he just thought it was over the guy's head and he was just running. Because what happened is the next guy grounded out with 1 out. It could have scored the run, made it 11-4. And, of course, that 3-run home run happened with Duvall in the top of the 9th, and it made it suddenly 10-7. So even though it didn't get extremely close, it was just one of those things where, in a future game, you have a 2-run lead, right? And you sacrifice a run by not being smart on the base paths, and it ends up costing you the game. That's kind of the impetus I was kind of getting to. Bruce didn't want to talk about that, I guess. He just kind of was like, shut up, kid. We don't talk about those things when it doesn't matter. But I thought it was something to point out. I mean, it's one of those mental mistakes, because you think if it goes over his head and he's standing on second, he's scoring without any issue whatsoever. But if he catches it, you tag and go to third. So there's no reason not to tag. Zero. But he, was caught almost all the way to third, and he had to run all the way back.
Yeah. I get his thought process. You do wonder if Bochy talks to guys about those things. It's funny.
That's all I was trying to find out. Yeah, just do you talk about it? Because it wasn't a crucial play in the game, not at all. But it was just like, hey, Longo, next time, think about the situation. If the ball's that deep, you're going to score if it's over his head easily standing on second. So just stay on second. Then you can tag up to third if he makes a great catch, which he did.
Yeah. That was a great game. You had to have a lot of fun at that game. It set the tone for the homestand, too. It was like everybody was worried coming back from Pennsylvania, and then, boom, to jump out with 10 runs in that first game, even with the Duvall homer in the 9th inning, it was kind of like, okay, the Giants can weather any storms that they have to deal with this homestand. Yeah. And they kind of got screwed by the umpires on back-to-back games. Like, it wasn't the deciding be-all, end-all. No. But Belt got called out on a pitch that was absolutely out of the strike zone.
That was Joe West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Crawford got screwed and then got tossed from the extra inning game against Colorado because he had a pitch that was higher, called a ball, and that one was lower and called a strike. So he totally had the argument there. And it was funny. I came across this stat. Brandon Belt, we always talk about. He sticks out as a guy who takes close pitches. And, I've even talked about maybe change your approach. I take that all back. Belt, do not change your approach. The guy is having an MVP caliber season. He's like, I think he's leading the National League in WAR right now. F4, Fangraphs WAR, which is just amazing. He has had the most called strike threes on pitches outside of the zone since 2015.
Oh, wow.
He has taken 50 called strike threes on pitches that are outside of the zone.
50? God, that seems like a lot.
Right? The next closest, Steven Souza Jr. at 46, Trout 41, Goldschmidt 41, and Votto 38. So you look at guys like Trout, Goldschmidt, and Votto who have tremendous eyes, just like Brandon Belt, and it makes sense they're in there. But 50 times. So it makes sense that his strike zone, Kipe says it all the time. I tell you what, if Brandon Belt doesn't think it's a strike, it's not a strike. And he's generally right about that. So even setting that aside, because they totally got screwed on a couple of them. Belt gets screwed again. That's when this, one came out. And it used to be fair to question that. But with the way he's been hitting lately, there's nothing to question. He hasn't carried this team, but he's absolutely helped spark them, especially with the 4 home runs in 4 straight games to start that homestand.
Yeah, apparently got a little bit of a talking to by Joe Torre from The Office. But, that's understood.
Adjustment. Screw off with your attitude adjustment. Call the game right.
I know. Now, as far as I know, he wasn't fined or anything, right? At least it wasn't disclosed if he was.
Disclosed, that's all it is.
Yeah, so maybe it's an internal kangaroo court kind of thing where they just, they admonish him somehow. But it's not. Joe West is not going to be a Brandon Belt fan in the future, but that's okay. That thing. I mean, they even replayed it on national TV on SportsCenter and Baseball Tonight. That's how big of a deal it was. Because yes, his hot takes after the game. That's why it became a story. But they were showing it. And how far outside it was. That was a good 4 to 6 inches outside. And, even the national broadcasters are like, he has an argument here. I mean, come on, you're the last batter, 2 strikes. You don't call it when, you call it when it's close, but it wasn't even close. Even close. It was sad to see, but, Joe West has a reputation that precedes him, and it kind of just added to the story, which was interesting.
It's funny with Belt. I think the fact that he spoke up, it shows a certain confidence level he's at this season that I don't think he was at other times. I mean, this guy's got 2 different 4-game streaks of homering in every game this season. That's got to be a huge boost to the ego.
Yeah.
He's what did you tweet here? It's he's like at the top of the leaderboard in everything. 8th in average, 2nd in OPS, 2nd in slugging, 5th in home runs with the 11. I mean,
and he's 4th in the NL in WAR, just traditional WAR at 2.3.
Oh, okay.
But he's right behind Freddie Freeman at 2.4. Mike Trout in the major leagues is at 4.0 because he's having a freaking sick season.
Oh my God.
I know, 4.0. He's like so far ahead of everyone. But I still hear, they've been a lot quieter lately, but there's still occasional Belt hater on Twitter going, well, yeah, see, this is just a hot streak. He's just streaky. Just wait for it. Wait for it. In late May or June, he's going to go cold, and then you'll just see who he... It's like, oh, my God, look, are you a Giants fan or not? This guy has been on fire, and I think that's what we need to talk about next, who's hot. It's both Brandons have been insane. In fact, Brandon Belt, just a few hours ago, was named NL Player of the Week, which is just fantastic. Even Bruce Bochy retweeted that and said he really deserves it, so... Bruce Bochy coming out for his player there, which was really, really cool to see. The last 8 games, Belt is 15 for 32, 5 home runs, 4 doubles, 11 RBIs. He's raised his season average from 273 to 313. I mean, what the hell, man? In 1 week, he's raised his average 40 points. That's crazy.
The streak with the home run in 4 straight games, it's I think, what was it? Bonds is the last guy to do 5 straight games. I don't know if that was at home or not, but when we talk about like the hotness of Belt and carrying a team, he can do that. So when he is struggling in June and July, guys like Longoria, McCutchen, Posey, Williamson, Crawford, they're all going to be picking it up anyways. Mm-hmm. You might as well strap in and ride Brandon Belt as long as possible. The guy's on another planet lately. It's like he's been doing the one swing. He gets one good pitch per at bat, and he'll hammer it sometimes.
That's what he's been doing. I've noticed is that he'll get that one pitch. He has some, corner pitches he fouls off or he lets go. Oh, I'll take that strike, or that's a ball outside. Because like you said, he has an impeccable eye. He reminds me of the eyes of Barry Bonds or Will Clark. 2 other left-handers, of course, in great Giants fame. And I agree with Kipe and Krug that, once he thinks it's a ball, it's probably a ball. So he has that great eye. He has a little bit of a high strikeout rate this year. He has swung and missed when he's hit those cold streaks. But he is definitely on target to be a first baseman for the All-Star game. Maybe not starting. The voting has started now, I believe. And we have, the rest of May and all of June to go. But if he even if it cools off a little bit, I don't care if he's not starting. I think this, who is it? Dave Roberts. I don't see why he wouldn't select him as a backup, and maybe he'll even be thrown into like the last player voted for by the fans. I hope not, because I think he's, had a better season than what that dictates. Freddie Freeman is right up there too. They're both kind of going neck and neck right now. So if Freeman gets it, it's understandable, but unless Belt, continues this tear and Freeman cools off, hopefully he will make the All-Star team.
I would think so. Riz is probably going to get voted in because, Cubs fans do that crap.
Well,
but
yeah, there's always the wild card and that's happened with Giants players before too, where Derek Jeter and others, they vote people in that they're just fans of. And you're right, Rizzo's got a huge Cubs fan base to vote for him. And that's where it gets complicated because then the manager has to have a replacement or two, and Roberts would go with Freeman in that case, and would Belt make the team in that? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, probably. He probably still would. The thing with Belt is this is going to be if Belt can continue over the next week and a half against, the Giants are playing the last 2 World Series champions this week. They've got 2 in Houston and then 3 in Wrigley. If Belt can keep this up against such high-profile teams, especially facing Cole and Verlander the next 2 days, if Belt can do a couple of things, he's going to stay in that, MVP talk because, like you said, the national guys are starting to take notice. Belt's been mentioned in national, from what I've read and seen on television, he's been mentioned a little bit more. People are starting to take notice. So I think if he can keep it up, he's going to stay high profile enough for a little bit. I mean, like I said, the guy's got, 11 home runs. His career high is 17. He's the hope for the first Giant to hit over 30 home runs since Bonds. So
last year he hit 18, and that was a career high. He has 7 more to go to match that. So he's on pace for over 30 now, for sure. We'll see if that happens.
I think he'll catch 20 by the end of, I think halfway through the season, he'll have 20.
No, he could. He very likely could. If he could end up over 30, I mean, that would just be an incredible season for this guy. The other Brandon we need to talk about as well, he could have been considered for NL Player of the Week. He just didn't have quite the power numbers that Belt did. But Brandon Crawford, one hell of a streak he's been going on right now. He is now in a distant first place for NL shortstops in batting average. He's raised it to 302. In the last 8 games, he's 16 for 29. Well over 500, 5 doubles, a home run, 7 RBIs, and he's raised his average in that span from 248 to 302. He's also hitting 444 in the month of May, and he raised his average from 189 at that point to 302. And he's just been on fire lately, and it's so great to see because this is a guy we say every year, if he hits 250, 260, we're happy. We're totally happy because the defense that he brings is so important. And here he is hitting 302 after a few weeks ago. We were like, God, I don't know if Crawford's even going to hit 240 this year. And sure enough, he's over 300 right now. And what I thought was really interesting is, did you hear what he cited his success to?
The Blanco Panda thing?
Yeah. Blanco and Panda apparently have noticed, and they went back and filmed, and they said, look, dude, you used to hold your hands higher up in your set position. And Crawford's like, really? And he was looking at video, and it's a matter of inches. It's not a significant distance. But he said, all right, I see it. And he raised his hands just a few inches higher, and it's helped him get more on top of the ball. And he's lacing it everywhere right now. So it's great to see that, the hitting coach couldn't see that, but, you got Blanco and Panda. But 2 longtime veteran teammates that have seen Crawford hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. You get to know your teammates. You know what they look like. It's different than an analyst up in the booth. I mean, you're talking about a guy in the dugout who's looking kind of more level, at the player as opposed to from the broadcasting booth. So I could totally see this. I could totally see these guys going, you used to hold your hands higher, man. You got them too low right now. Why don't you fix that? And he did, and it's working.
Well, that's the funny thing. If Crawford were a right-handed hitter, they might not have noticed it. But because their dugout is on the third base side and he's a left-handed hitter, I have a feeling one of the two of them, Blanco, is my guess, actually, because he's the one that's been imparting wisdom everywhere lately. I bet he looked up, and I think just in his head it probably flashed didn't this guy used to have his hands a little higher? Because Blanco went away and came back. Granted, so did Pablo. That's really interesting too, and it speaks to why Pablo is still around this ball club. He brings an element to the clubhouse and to the team that other guys can't necessarily bring, and he keeps it loose in that respect. They'll let Pablo pitch. I read the other day there were 3 or 4 of them in the clubhouse. Yeah, and guys were wearing them in the clubhouse the other day. So that kind of fun has infiltrated it. With Crawford, he's going good when he's hitting the ball to left field, especially down that left field line.
Yeah, when he's that one double he had when he poked it down there, that was fantastic.
Yeah, that's when he takes what the pitcher gives him. That's when he doesn't overthink it and do those kinds of things. I think I was real worried at the beginning of the season after his month of April batting, what was it, 189? Yeah, there 189. It is. 189. And I was real concerned because I was thinking this is going to be Crawford's year. All the distractions of last year are finally gone. He can focus on stuff. And having teammates snap him into focusing on something is totally what, I kind of meant by that. Being able to just stay focused on his game, on his job, on the things he's doing is probably what, helped him be 32 of 72 in the month. Wow, 32 hits and 72 at-bats in the month of May. That's just phenomenal. And as a bonus, this next game will be career game number 1,000.
Oh, how about that? Congratulations, Crawford.
I'm looking at the game logs, and it says games, this to 999. So I just,
So let's talk about who's not hot. I don't want to call out every individual player, but I think it's safe to say the Giants starting pitching. That's been the conundrum. And we saw it coming. You lose Cueto and you lose Bumgarner. I mean, it's 40% of your pitching staff. And 2 aces, by the way. You lose those and you're replacing them with, Derek Holland and Ty Block and Andy Suarez, which, he was good coming up. He's hit some rough patches lately. As batters, the scouting reports are out and they're figuring him out or whatever's been going on. But the Giants starting staff, I tell you what, and I think we both agree with this, if the Giants offense had not been clicking like it has been the last month, the Giants are 6, 7, 8 games under 500 now. Because their offense has single-handedly saved them in games in which even the starting pitching has just absolutely bombed. And if it wasn't for the offense, the Giants would not be sniffing 2 games from Arizona right now. Unfortunately, if they had their pitching staffs of years past, Giants would be clear in first place by 4 or 5 games right now, easily. And that's their Achilles heel right now. Hopefully the Giants are going to remedy that in the next few weeks here. But let's talk about that. The Giants are now 12th in the National League in ERA at 4.33. That's not just their starting staff. Their bullpen's been better than their starters. 12th out of 15. That's not good.
It's funny. Everything we talk about staying around 500, and then you mentioned getting Bumgarner and Cueto. We're always talking about getting pitching back. And if the Giants had more stability in the rotation right now, I think that, like you said, they could be a few more games over 500. To be honest, like Samar's just finally settling in. He had his best outing of the year. The other day was against Cincinnati, Colorado. I don't remember. It might have been Colorado, where he gave up some runs early in the second inning. He gave up like 3 quick runs.
Yep.
And then he settled in and he went into the 7th. And it was his best pitching performance of the year. And I just been questioning Samardzija lately because everything on him has been drifting high, but he finally was finishing his pitches. You can't chalk it up to a rough stretch if it just keeps happening. So I think just getting the guys back so that, Suarez is not placed in situations he shouldn't be. So maybe Holland isn't starting as often as he should be. And again, credit to him. He had a good start in Pittsburgh last week. But, I mean, the guys that they're throwing out there right now, there's also nobody else to come in and change it. They literally have to wait for guys to come back from injury. But if there's one thing that we're going to be looking at a month from now, if the Giants are still contending, starting pitching, I think, is going to be the number one priority for the Giants at the trade deadline if they're still in this. Yep. And that begs a lot of questions as far as working, the salary and the luxury tax and all that crap. But so far, that's what it looks like. Starting pitching has been their biggest weakness. Like, relievers are almost throwing as many innings as the starters. We're seeing it. Nobody was going deep. I looked at it before Samardzija start. Like, everybody was going 4 innings, 5 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. And the bullpen's just taxed. They had 17 straight days without a day off. So I'm hoping that by having today off and by having Thursday off, it kind of gives the pitchers a chance to regroup and reset things. And then after the road trip, we'll see what happens with Bumgarner going forward because he's eligible to be activated 4 days from now.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So first of all, it's interesting to note that Bochy said with 2 days off, 2 off days this week, and of course their DH in Houston, the Giants are still committed to carrying 13 pitchers to start their next road trip. And that completely speaks to the fact that the bullpen, like you just said, has been taxed. They've been throwing almost as many innings as the starters. In fact, in many games more. And they need that break. So they need that extra guy in there to absorb it, especially going on this road trip. I think Bochy and the brass see this is a very, very tough road trip. I mean, it's against Houston, the Cubs, and then in Colorado, which every game is a Nintendo baseball game. It's just... this is going to be bad. And even with the 2 off days and even with the DH, they're going to need every pitcher they can get. And I'm not looking forward to this road trip. Hopefully the Giants can survive it, 500 or so. But Bumgarner, like you said, is eligible to come off the DL pretty soon. He had a successful 40-pitch bullpen session on Saturday, and he's set to face hitters tomorrow, actually, live hitters. Bruce Bochy said that the left-hander is slated for at least 3 rehab starts. Now, remember, he originally said 1. And I'm sure that was partially Bumgarner going, I just need 1, and I'm ready to go. But they kind of backed off of that and said, okay, we need to see how you do 3 times. But that would put his potential return sometime around the second week of June, assuming he doesn't have any setbacks. So he's going to have his first rehab start in Sacramento on Saturday, and it's going to be all eyes on Bumgarner. I know in the past, him and others, they do these rehab starts, and they they might get blown up, and they're not working for results. They're working for specific pitches they're working on. They're like, hey, look, I want to throw 5 fastballs in a row. I want to try my slider. I want to try my curveball. So they're not necessarily thinking about situational pitching. They're working on mechanics. So if guys are looking for a fastball and they get a fastball and they hit it for a double, it happens. But still, we're gonna see how he does. But apparently, he told media, Bumgarner himself a few days ago, that he feels like he's 95%. He's almost there. Which probably means he's about 70% because that's Bumgarner, but I'm getting excited.
I mean, we'd all be like that, I think. I came across, I was reading some article from the other day, like a week ago, and I came across a quote from Bochy who said that Bumgarner's just unbearable while he's on the DL here. It's just like, come on, can we just start this now? Can we just do this now?
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Yeah.
And I believe it. The guy he's been on and off the field the last 2 seasons. He's not like the specific answer, but I mean his presence going out there every 5th day is so stabilizing for the Giants as a franchise that it can't help but do anything but good things for this staff the way they've been pitching.
You talk to these players and they like the stoppers, right? So the Giants or any team hits a losing streak, they like that ace to come in, and there's a confidence that it breeds within the lineup. And, you played baseball, I played baseball. We never played professionally. I played a little college and in high school. And when you're in a little bit of a losing streak and you get your ace out on the mound, it picks you up mentally. You just kind of go, shit, we're going to win this today. We're going to stop this losing streak today. The Giants don't have that in Cueto and Bum being gone right now. So when the Giants lose 2, 3, 4 in a row, and they got Derek Holland out on the mound, there's a little bit of a setback. I gotta admit, I can totally understand. The players never admit that, but they kind of think to themselves, oh, boy, this is going to be a long day. And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes, Derek Holland does well. But the point being, they need that guy. They need that yeah, I know, right? They need that stopper. And so, these guys coming back is going to be just an absolutely huge pickup. Speaking on that same vein, we haven't really talked too much about Mac or Pence right now. Now, what's really, really interesting, did you see the video from AAA with Pence adjusting his batting stance?
Yes, and I know you're going to mention it. It looks like Mac is exactly where his hands, his load, everything looks like Mac. It was the first thing I noticed.
Which looks like Justin Turner, right?
Yep.
I mean, the same guy. So there seems to be a little bit of a passing of information from the coach, from Justin Turner to Mac, which helped him, and now with Mac and Pence, Mac's helping him out, and
Pence
it wasn't working for Pence, and I think Pence just finally had to swallow his pride, and he's never been a guy who's been stubborn. He's not a stubborn guy. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that he's always had his own particular approach to the plate, and he finally was like, shit, I'm getting to the end of my career. I need to do what I can do to get back to the freaking big leagues. I might not ever make it back at this point. So he's in desperation mode, is what I sense. I could be completely wrong about that. He has the contract through the rest of this year, and the Giants aren't going to DFA him, I don't think, because of what he's done for this franchise. Never. We've talked about that. But he's also not going to languish and accept an assignment in AAA all year. Pence is the only guy I would actually expect to actually accept an assignment. But because it's the last year of his contract, I don't think he would. I think he would say, you know what, I love you guys, just release me. I'll get picked up by someone, and I'll get back up to the big leagues, right? Because I have to be signed to the 25-man roster.
Right.
That said, he's got a more upright approach. It's a very non-Pence looking at bat, and it's having preliminary success.
He asked to stay in the minor leagues. You're allowed, when you go on the DL, you're allowed a certain amount of time for the rehab. And he asked, I don't know if you remember, it was a show or two ago, there was a little blip where all of a sudden Hunter Pence got shut down again, and we didn't know what was going on. And then 3-4 days later, he started playing again, which is when the new swing emerged at the exact same time. And Pence asked to stay in the minors for a little bit so that he could work on the swing. And there's going to be a problem in this outfield very, very soon, because he's going to be eligible or have to be activated soon, and he's not going to accept an assignment to stay in the minors right now. The outfield's going to get crowded. There's going to be Mac is going to be ready to come back. I really wanted to see him hit in Houston. Hopefully he'll be back for Wrigley, but they say they still want to give him some minor league time, which is crazy because the guy already has 2 or 3 home runs in his 3 games back.
I know. How many at bats do you need to give him when he's hot? Call him up, man. Call him up.
He's something like 3rd in that league or 5th in that league in home runs, and he's played half the games than any of the other guys that have as many as him.
By the way, can I just rewind for a second?
Yeah.
I don't recall ever focusing on Williamson hitting BP, but he was there on Monday hitting BP. Holy shit. It was awe-inspiring. And I'm thinking, why is this guy not activated right now? Look at this. He was tattooing balls to the very deep seats in the left field bleachers. And then apparently on Tuesday, which I was not there, he hit one into the little park behind the bleachers.
Yeah.
I mean, but even when he wasn't hitting home runs, it was like when I watched BP with Barry Bonds, there's just a contact that, or the times I've seen Tiger Woods play twice in his prime at Pebble Beach. He separates himself from the crowd. They all separate themselves from the crowd in terms of their mechanics, the velocity of the swing, and the sound of the impact. It's just visceral. For those of you that haven't been able to witness that, there is a huge difference. You see 98% of these hitters, they're hitting, and it kind of sounds the same. Crack, crack, crack. Oh, there's a home run that just got over the fence. There's one off the wall. There's a ground ball. There's a ground ball. Then you get these guys that come in, and there's a pronounced difference in the volume and the speed in which they swing the bat. And that is exactly what happened. And I wasn't even looking for Mac. I just was kind of videotaping, doing the live stuff, and Mac was up there, and I didn't really pay attention. And these balls are just, the sound was different. And I put the phone down, and I just started watching him, and I said, oh, shit, that's Mac Williamson. It was awe-inspiring, and I'm thinking, does this guy really have any symptoms? I'm like, can we put him on the roster right now? He's like not having any issues right now.
It's like they've pussyfoot with him all season long, and I think it's because of Austin Jackson. I think that they don't want to admit that they're going to have to cut Austin Jackson. I think he's the odd man out when
you
Pence
think so,
and Mac,
huh?
I do. I think it's Austin Jackson. I really do.
Not
I think
Gorky's or Blanco, huh?
No, Gorky's is having a hell of a year.
Yeah, he had a solo bomb to center yesterday. Holy moly, that was a shot.
Kept going and going. He led off the game on Thursday or Friday, I think it was, with a home run. And then the Giants didn't do anything else. But Gorky's is really, he's playing a much better center field than Jackson. Jackson doesn't seem to get as good of a route. This has surprised me. I thought Jackson was a better fielder than he's shown.
No.
But there was a double the other day where he just did not get a good read on the ball. And I really felt like, 4 out of 5 outfielders would have just kind of caught that on the run at the track. It hasn't been impressive. And if Duggar, I don't know if you saw a video of him making an amazing catch the other day in Salt Lake. If Duggar continues to do things and Mac forces his way, Pence forces his way, I think the Giants eat Jackson's contract. The fact that they're resetting the luxury tax means that his contract won't be that big of a hit next year. Even though it's a 2-year contract, it won't really affect them because next year everything's going to be reset. And it sounds like, I don't know, it's not like they're going to go for a $300 million payroll, but the $2.5 million that Austin Jackson, or it might be 3 to 5 next year, it won't be as big of a hit. Yeah. And I think that the Giants are willing at this point to cut ties and say that they made a mistake. Granted, you mentioned he hit 316 over the last week, but I don't think Bochy's happy with the way Jackson's been in the field. And when we talk about, Mac bombing the crap out of the ball, got to find a place for him. And you need a guy like Gorkys who can play every outfield position. And he's just been hammering lefties. I think he's hitting over 400 against left-handed pitchers this season. The home run yesterday was against a left-handed pitcher.
Right.
So I don't think you can get rid of him. Gorkys is doing what I thought he would do 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, Jackson's got 113 at-bats this year. He's hitting 248. McCutchen has 165 at-bats, so about 52 more at-bats, and he's also hitting 248. So their averages are the same. Of course, McCutchen has 3 bombs. Jackson has none. Gorkys Hernandez only has 86 ABs, but he's hitting 279, and he's got 4 bombs this year. So he's got more than McCutchen right now. So you make a good argument for Gorkys. He's definitely got a better average. He's got more power. He's got more RBIs. Actually, no, he doesn't. He has a few less because of his fewer at-bats. But point being, I can see what you're saying. Now Blanco is at 114 at-bats, 1 bomb, and hitting 254. He's a veteran. Giants love him. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know what his contract is this year. It's not as high as Jackson because he was signed late.
Yeah, he signed a minor league deal.
Yeah, I could see Blanco going. I really could. And I know he has no options left, so he'd be DFA'd. But, it's one of those things where it's like they already let him go once, and he signed with Arizona last year and got some time. But I could see Blanco going. I love the guy, but at the same time, if it's Blanco or Mac, okay. I know what I'm going for, right?
Well, what I think
it's the same with Jackson. I mean, I would say with Jackson or Mac, same thing. But I'm just saying Jackson or Blanco, it's not an easy call because I don't think I've seen Jackson enough. And we know Blanco. But Blanco's he's great in the playoffs, to be honest. And that might be where his intangibles come out. Regular season, it's like, all right, he's a serviceable outfielder, He's questionable defense at times. But like you said, Jackson, who, was supposed to be the good center fielder, he had that great highlight last year leaping over the wall in Boston. He's had some very questionable approaches to balls this year.
Yeah. I have not seen that Austin Jackson yet, the guy who made that play. I actually think when it all shakes out, I think Austin Jackson gets DFA'd and somebody picks him up. And I think Blanco also eventually gets DFA'd and accepts the
Pence or whatever.
Yes,
yeah,
right. And I think Blanco accepts the assignment and clears waivers. I don't think anybody picks up Blanco.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. I think he goes to Sacramento. Blanco, from everything I read going into the season and just so far this season, he's at home being a Giant. He just is. He felt like going to Arizona was a little bit of a blip and being back home, and he showed it. He had a great spring. Just being around the same guys in the clubhouse again, seemed to help him out. But so I can see him absolutely accepting it. And Austin Jackson, there's just this allure with him. And I don't know if it's speed or if it's quote-unquote range, because I haven't seen that yet this year, or the fact that he's supposed to mash lefties, which we also haven't seen. He's like enticing. He's always been a late-season pickup. Like 2-3 years ago, the Cubs picked him up late. And that's why Jackson has shifted from team to team, and I could see him getting scooped by somebody. Yeah. But it's all. Hopefully, this is sooner rather than later. These decisions need to get made because, like you said, Mac Williamson needs to be in that lineup, and he needs to be in that lineup now.
He does. Speaking of this road trip coming up, they do have 2 in Houston starting tomorrow, 3 in Chicago at the friendly confines of Wrigley, and then 3 in Colorado. It's going to be a tough road trip. There's no questioning about that. Now, what I wanted to talk about specifically is the first 2 games in Houston starting tomorrow. They're going to be facing Brandon Crawford's cousin, or brother-in-law. Brother-in-law, because his sister is married to him, Garrett Cole, and then, of course, Justin Verlander. Now, we all know the history of the Giants and Justin Verlander in the 2012 World Series, and Pablo Sandoval, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He has reinvented himself in Houston from last year through the playoffs and this year. He is unstoppable. So far, Verlander this year, 5-2, leading the American League with a 1.05 ERA. Garrett Cole, 4-1, number 2 in the American League in ERA with a 1.75. He also has 93 strikeouts in 61 and 2/3 innings pitched. Holy shit! Okay,
yeah, that's ridiculous.
So both of those are number 1 and 2 in ERA. They're not facing, obviously, a third starter. If they did, it would be Charlie Morton, who is number 3 in the American League in ERA. What the hell? The Astros are 1, 2, 3 in ERA in those 3 starters. It is unbelievable. They are setting records this year. Their offense is off the charts. They are the defending World Series champions. They have not lost a beat, and they're in Houston. Now, what's funny is the Giants have always done very, very well in Minute Maid Park when they were in the National League. This is a different team. We can't call this, oh, the Giants do well. No. This is the defending World Series champions. They're going to be facing 2 highly touted pitchers, strikeout pitchers, both leading the league in ERA. The Giants not being the best in terms of contact. Well, they have been lately, but as we noted, the strikeout totals on that last road trip, and this is starting this road trip. So
yeah,
this is one of those things where I think my prediction is the Giants are going to strike out like crazy. That's going to happen. I mean, it happens against everyone, against these 2 guys. So you're going to have to absorb those strikeouts. The question is, when are they going to get that bloop and a blast? You know what I mean? That's what they need. This is not going to be small ball because of when you face guys that strike out a lot of players, you can't do the single bunt them over, hit them in, right? That's not going to work against these guys. This really is, you get a walk or a base hit and you get another strikeout or 2, you got to hit a bomb. I mean, and it's feast or famine with these guys, but at the same time, Belt is hot, Crawford is hot, Posey's going to be in the number 2 hole, it looks like. Longoria, he's got success, and he's seen these guys in the American League. Well, not Garrett Cole because he was with the Pirates. But the fact of the matter remains that this is going to be tough. The Giants have to start off this road trip splitting in Houston. You don't want to go 0-2 heading into Chicago. And, that's going to be really rough because you could easily lose 2 out of 3 in Chicago, and suddenly they're 1-4 on the road trip. Heading into Colorado, which sometimes is even worse. So you could really see this road trip going south very, very quickly. So I think
like
they have to. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like you said, Verlander and Cole are going to strike out because if you look at that stretch in Pennsylvania against the Phillies, they were all right-handed starters. The Giants just strike out against right-handed starters more than they do left-handed starters. But the way that the offense has been hitting lately, Belt, 10 of his 11 home runs have been off right-handed starters. Yesterday's was the first time he hit a lefty. So you figure Belt's going to hang in there against Verlander and Cole. We know nothing's going to phase Posey. Andrew McCutcheon's been around, like you said, Longoria's been around. And against Verlander, I wouldn't be shocked. I really would not be shocked to see Pablo Sandoval start. I would not be shocked to see him start tomorrow's game. I mean, it's
oh my God. It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Right? Put him at third. Longo bats righty. Verlander's a right-hander. Use all the crap excuses you want.
They got a DH. So, yeah. Pablo either DHing or playing third. Whatever, swap. Well, Longoria has 3 gold gloves, right? Yeah. So, DH Pablo, right?
Yep.
Jesus Christ. I mean, that's what you need to do. Just instill a little bit of fear and memories into Verlander.
Right? I mean,
that one classic, shot of him turning around going, wow. Yeah.
I mean, he's their ace in the hole right now. I mean, he could beat up Verlander and close the game. But I agree. They have to split these 2 games, which is tough to do. I mean, when Verlander and Cole are doing what they're doing lately, and the Astros are going to score runs. I'm trying to remember who the hell is pitching for the Giants the next 3 days.
I haven't looked at that. Well, Block went yesterday. Oh no, wait, was it Block
he
or
did.
Stratton?
So, okay,
Block
so
and
Suarez
Stratton before that.
And then, all right. Suarez tomorrow
Suarez.
and Smarja on Wednesday.
Yeah, Suarez, Smarja, and then
the same. Yeah, and then it goes.
Boy.
And then it goes.
Here
Strat.
we go.
Well, I mean,
are they skipping Holland? By the way, no, I guess they're probably not, huh?
I'd probably not. I'll say this too: the Giants are lucky; they're going to avoid John Lester after facing these 2 guys.
Yeah.
Lester's pitching on Wednesday for the Cubs. So over the weekend, the Giants will be facing Hendricks, Chatwood, and Darvish.
Yeah, Darvish is going to be fun because, he started the season really, really cold, but he's come on as of late. So
he had a start yesterday, just like Samardzija has sometimes, where he was so shaky in like the first inning, and then he kind of settled down for 5 or 6 innings. Yeah. So you got to get him early, and that'll be a Sunday night game. So who knows what's going to happen.
Well, Eric, it's going to be fun this next road trip. I mean,
it's tough. We'll see what they're made of.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge test. I mean, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but, considering the fact that they swept Atlanta the last road trip and then lost 6 in a row against Philly and Pittsburgh before closing up that road trip with a win. I don't know. It's an 8-game road trip. 4-4 would be spectacular. Spectacular. But I could easily see this thing going 2-6. And that's not because I don't have confidence in the Giants. It's because of the competition they're facing and the parks that they're going to be in. Like you said, it's the 2 previously defending world champions. They got the number 1 and 2 starters in the American League. They're facing the next 2 days. Then they go to Chicago, which, to be honest, they've had some pretty poor luck in the last few seasons.
They get beat up in Wrigley the last few
And
years.
then same with Colorado. They have a losing record in Colorado, even during their winning years. It's just a tough road trip. It really is. I mean, I didn't fear Philly, and they lost 4 in a row. I didn't fear Pittsburgh, and they lost 2 out of 3. So, their offense, of course, if it clicks along, they're going to score their runs. They're going to score, 4 or 5 runs a game. It's their starting pitching, and that's what really scares me. But you're facing 3 dynamic offenses right now. And, Houston pitching is off the charts. Chicago has been good. Colorado, of course, in Colorado, you never know what you're going to get. You could get a 3-1 game, or you can get a 13-10 game. You don't know. It's going to be rough, man. But it's interesting. Today, the Bay Area has no sports going on. No A's, no Giants, no Warriors after that 41-point demolition of Houston last night. So it's a little bit of a breather here in the Bay Area. But coming in with this road trip, they're going to be 2 games back with an 8-game road trip. So it can't be worse than 10 games back at the end of the road trip. Let's put it that way. They're probably going to be in single digits after this road trip.
Who knows? Maybe they'll, the offense will keep going, and everybody will be like, who the hell are the Giants? I mean, you always talk about being 500 on the road and having a winning record at home. Yeah. Well, they're 14-10 at home and 10-14 on the road. So if they can pull that up, those are the few games they need to make up. I don't think it's going to happen in this 8 games like you're saying, but it'll go a long way towards that. And when do they get a break, man? I'm tired of these road trips against teams with winning records. The last one with Philly, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh. This one. Well, I mean, when do they get to go to like Cincinnati and?
I don't have the schedule up in front of me, but I will say this: is that the good news is that my feeling is that the schedule is going to get easier later in the year, and they're going to have more home games in June, right when Cueto and Bumgarner are coming back, assumedly, and Panic. So, and maybe even Melanson, which, whatever, I don't really care. But, so, I mean, even if they have a tough road trip, I think good schedule and good tidings lie ahead. So, we'll see what happens. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for episode 144 of the TortureCast. You can follow us collectively on Twitter at TortureCast. Of course, like us on Facebook as well. You can like us individually, myself at ChadK21 and Eric at 2OutHits. That's with the number 2. Again, check out what Eric has been writing. I think he took a break this last week because he broke his finger.
Yes, I did.
He did not fall gracefully like a cat.
No,
so,
39
wait, how old are you now?
Life.
39 years old, and you've never broken a bone. That's amazing.
Correct.
Dude,
Yeah.
Seriously. So I
know of. I have a really high threshold for pain, so it's entirely possible I've broken something in the past and not known.
I broke a finger dunking on like a 7-foot rim.
That's the worst.
Where the ball hit the back rim. Yeah, and my index finger, right index finger, bent backwards on a 4th of July party. Snapped that. And then when I was 7 years old, we were playing tag, and someone caught up to me and pushed me in the shoulder, and I did a whole flip, landed on my left shoulder, and broke my clavicle. So that was fun. I remember wearing that weird, awkward sling that pulls your shoulders back like a backpack, So I don't know what they do these days. There's a friend of ours that had a daughter who broke her collarbone, and they just went in and surgically put a pin in, and she was out in 2 weeks. I was like, what? Why didn't I have that? I had to wear this
Back in the
weird
day,
shit for 6 weeks.
For like, and then
yeah, that was
supposed to sit during that.
That
whole
was
time.
1979, so that was a long time ago. Yeah, other than that, a lot of ligament injuries, but
right. Like that's,
so anyway, as you can understand, people, typing's a little difficult. So
it hurt.
But
I had a buddy who broke his arm kicking a football. So
that's hard to
at least,
do.
yeah, he Charlie Browned it. Nobody pulled the ball away, but he Charlie Browned it and landed on his arm. And I'm just thankful that I didn't have something that stupid happen to me.
So next week, Monday is Memorial Day. I think Eric and I are going to try and record. It depends on our individual schedules. I think we'll be able to do it, but we really do appreciate your comments lately, by the way. In fact, I want to read a couple. Our last episode, It Could Be Worse, we had from Santa Ana Canyon. You're right, it could be worse. LOL. Excellent show. And from Tim Honeycutt, short but sweet. Thanks, guys. Bum rush! Because, yes, they are rushing Bum back up. Yeah, YouTube viewers have been great. Same guys, by the way. Those games on Facebook are listed on MLB.com. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. The whole Facebook.com thing, I think, is a horrible, horrible atrocity and should be shot and put out in the backyard and buried with no investigation whatsoever. That's just a horrible thing. Grateful for this show. This is what baseball talk shows should sound like. So just really good stuff from you guys. Thank you so much for your comments. It really means a lot because, we don't know when and where people are listening. We see the downloads and they're pretty good. But, I listen to a lot of podcasts that I completely enjoy, that I think are phenomenal. And I never write those people. And this is kind of teaching me I need to do this because, hopefully we're reaching out and we're reaching some of you guys that really do enjoy this stuff. So if you do, give us a plug. If you hate us, hey, go ahead and let us know too, because we want to fix things. If things aren't going the way you like, then let us know if you want us to go in a different direction. But regardless, we want to hear back from you guys. We love the numbers. It's been great so far. This is not necessarily a world-beating year so far, but the Giants are hanging in there. 2 games back of first place. They're 500, and it's much better than last year. So we definitely can say that. But yeah,
we're not gonna lose interest in June because the Giants are 20 games back already.
No, we were recording last year when they were way, way, way back, and they lost 98 games. We weren't necessarily recording every week because of our schedules, but we're gonna try and adhere to that schedule because Eric and I are trying to be very, very consistent with this because we love what we do. We love giving this information to you guys, and we hope you like it. And thank you for the feedback so far. So, Eric, do you have anything else to pimp?
Nah, I should be back writing this week. I'll figure out how to use my other fingers without. My hand was just really, really sore last week. The timing was crap. I even tried to. So there will be a torture report probably Thursday between the Houston and Chicago series because if you've listened to the show in the past, you know that I am from Chicago originally. And my indoctrination into the Giants was always at Wrigley Field. So whenever the Giants go to Wrigley, it kind of just stirs some things up in me, even though I'm living in Georgia now. But that the Giants-Cubs rivalry is different to me than anybody else I know. All my friends were Cubs fans growing up, so I look forward to social media this weekend because I got a lot of Cubs buddies that I talk to, and so I'll probably get something out on Thursday because that experience that them heading into Wrigley is always an exciting time for me. And like we mentioned, they have been absolute crap at Wrigley the last few years, so hopefully something will change that.
All right. Well, until next time, this is Chad and Eric signing off for episode 144. We'll see you next week for episode 145. Until next time, a boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.